It's a darn good recipe. It's savory, it's delicious, and it's topped with all kinds of flavor. You're going to like this recipe. I'm going to make cottage pie. If you're wondering what's cottage pie, well, have you ever heard of a shepherd's pie? It's kind of like that, except it's made with beef. Now, trust me, it's not a play off of the shepherd's pie. Exactly the opposite. Cottage pie came around first. Shepherd's pie came around second. They're both Irish dishes, and they're both delicious. One uses lamb, the other uses beef, all right? Cottage pie is beef, and that's what we're going to be making today. This is a delicious, savory meat pie that, well, it just has to be tried to be enjoyed. And folks, the fact of the matter is, this is a very, very old recipe. It's going back, oh man, centuries. This, if I remember right, make sure I get my dates right here. If I remember right, this came around in the late 1700s, early 18. So right in that neighborhood. And so you've got a very old recipe. I'm not going to follow that recipe exact, but you have to kind of take this recipe in the spirit in which it was originally invented, which was during a time where, you know, there was a bit of famine going on. There was a difficulty feeding people. The potato was a good substitute for a lot of stuff that wasn't growing well, and it produced a lot of product per acre. So you got a lot more out of the potato than you would out of, let's say, an acre of wheat. So potatoes were really popular at that time, and they were doing a lot of things with it. And one of those was the cottage pie, which was generally made by shredding used meat, in other words, leftover meat, you might say, from the day before. Let's say a roast, you would shred that, season that up, cook it with some onion, make a gravy to go with it, mix that all together, and then put it in a pan with some mashed potato over it. Now, from what I've studied, in Ireland, they would line the pan first with mashed potatoes, put the meat in there, and put more mashed potatoes on top. I think either way would be cool, but man, that sounds like a really neat way of doing it. What I'm going to be doing today is making just a wonderful meat pie, and this is a recipe that I've put together myself just this morning, and so it's right here in my head. And the answer is no, I haven't done this before. This is one of my recipes, and this is what I do. I do recipe development. This is going to taste good because it has all the right elements, and they're all going to be pulled together in just the right way. So let's get in the kitchen and let me show you my recipe for cottage pie. Come on. Now for cottage pie, we're going to need some beef. I have chuck back here. Now, this whole thing kind of goes back to my video that I did just a couple of weeks ago on stocking your pantry. I have a well-stocked pantry, and the neat thing that I said about this back then, I said, you know, if you have a well-stocked pantry, you can make any dish you want. You know, it may be a little different here or there, but you're going to make that same dish, and that's what this is right here. We have chuck roast. I have some water to make my mashed potatoes with, yes, that's right, potato flakes. This will work fine, folks, because right now we are in the middle of a problem in the United States. This is the beginning of May of the year 2020, and we need to use what we got. So potato flakes it is. Some butter to flavor up that mash that I'm going to put on top. And once I make it, I'm going to thin the mash with some milk, all right? And that's not sitting out here, but I'm going to be doing that. If you don't have milk, water does fine. Also, so does cream. I have some beef broth. That's going to be for the gravy. We have some flour down here, an onion, poblano, some corn, also a little cheese back here. And to season all of this with, very simple, salt, pepper, and I'm going to use a little Worcestershire sauce to bring out some special flavors. This is going to be a basic cottage pie with what we have on hand, and it's some good looking stuff to me. I'm looking forward to this. Let's get busy cooking, come on. I can't make this dish unless I grind up that meat. So I'm gonna put that through my meat grinder real quick. We'll have us some fresh ground chuck and get on with making this fantastic dish. I have everything prepped out and measured out and fixed just the way it needs to be so cooking can commence without there being any interruption. This is what the French call mise en place. This is the way I like to cook, okay? And I'll tell you what, the minute you start doing this, you won't complain about the dirty bowls when you see the results in the end and how easy it makes the job of cooking itself. It takes rough drudge work and turns it into fun just by doing this. I have everything laid out in order as the way I'm going to use it. Right over here, mashed potatoes. I want to make that first because they can cool down and it'll be fine. I need to work with those later instead of when they're piping hot. So that gets started first. The meat, I'm going to put it in as big of a pan as I have, and I'm going to cook it with the onion. And then once we start getting everything cooked down, we're going to be adding in that pepper and also the corn. We're going to get some beautiful color going on in this. And in a side pot, and this is going to be the third pan, I'm going to be making some brown gravy. Very simple, basic brown gravy recipe. I'm going to flavor it with that Worcestershire sauce. And then when it's all getting cooked up, we combine our gravy with our meat and vegetables to produce a wonderful, wonderful item. That goes into a pan, we top with the mash and get it baking, and that's how this little game works. So start with your mash. Once it's up and cooking, get started on your meat and work it out that way. Have my meat in a large pan cooking, okay? The thing about this, right now I'm just trying to cook out some of that moisture right there. That is concentrated flavor. Don't want to pour any of it off, but I don't need it in this dish. I just need the extra water removed, keeping the flavor. In a moment, I'm going to go ahead and get my vegetables in this so they start cooking with this and get this fully cooked. I'm looking to cook the vegetables fully, the meat fully, but I don't have to go crazy about this. After that, we'll then add in the gravy, and I'm going to start that right now. Vegetables go in this first. As you can see, I have my meat cooking up beautifully along with those vegetables. Just give it plenty of time. There's no rush on this, but it's a beautiful looking combination. I'm going to really enjoy this pie, I'm sure of that. The other thing, I've got my broth boiling, and over here I have the makings of a gravy, and that starts with some flour and cold water. Always use cold water. You can use a shaker or even a mason jar. Just shake these two together well and then pour them into the hot broth. And once they're in the hot broth, stir that well with a whisk, bring it back to a boil, and you're going to have brown gravy. We're going to be adding in some Worcestershire sauce and black pepper and salt and getting this flavored up like a good quality brown gravy, and that's the sauce for that little guy right there. Okay, I've got this pan. It's cooked really good. I'm getting some browning on the meat, browning on the bottom of the pan, and I've got my onions looking translucent. That is the sign that this is ready. All I need to do is put my gravy into this, mix them together, and then this is ready to form the base of my casserole. That is going to then go in the oven. Now you need your oven preheated to 350 degrees. Not so much to cook anything, but to make sure that what we have here is had the cheese melted off and is congealed together, and that's what the final bake is for. Well, I've just finished assembling this little guy right here. It's beautiful. Now I've got my meat in the bottom, of course, put the mashed potato on top, and then the cheese over that. And the mash, I did add some cream to it. It helped it to flow a little easier and to spread out. And that, the moisture of it is going to get cooked out in the oven right now, leaving us with a beautiful, soft, fluffy mashed potatoes topped with cheese and wonderful savory meat underneath. The quantity of everything that I use today starts with this guy. I use 2.5 pounds of beef that I ground up for this dish. Now, any excess fat, of course, you can remove. I have 4 cups of water. I started with 2 2/3 cups of potato flakes and a half a stick of butter. That's 4 tablespoons, all right? 2 cups of beef broth. This is just basically a heaping 1/8 of a cup of flour, so not quite a quarter. 1 medium onion, 1 medium poblano, about a half a cup of corn, some cheese. You're going to look for about a half to 1 cup of cheese to top it with. And then for the seasoning, you're going to use salt to taste. And remember, some things have salt, like butter and broth, so you want to just add it to taste. And then on that black pepper, you're going to use anything from 1 to 3 teaspoons of black pepper. For the Worcestershire sauce, you're looking at 2 to 3 tablespoons of Worcestershire sauce. And folks, absolutely delicious. Now let's take a look at this gorgeous cottage pie that we've put together. Oh, I'm looking forward to cottage pie. Here we go. Keep an eye on it. Make sure it doesn't burn. Give it a little bit of browning on the top. Make sure you melt your cheese, and then it's ready to enjoy. It's a little bit thin. I think that's because of the pan I used. But I'm telling you, the flavors, oh wow. The recipe is banging good. I'm going to enjoy this because it's got everything I enjoy. Beef, mashed potatoes, and the flavors that came out. You know, when you get that onion, the chili in there, the corn, all of it, it just brings out so much flavor and richness in the dish. It's absolutely incredible. And what that gravy did for it just topped it. Thank you very much for watching this. Please enjoy this recipe. If you would, take a look at my channel. That's Texas Cooking Today, and there's a lot of recipes there. If you haven't subscribed, why not? You know where the button is. Click the bell so you get your notification on it. And if you would, please take a look in the description box. There's links there. You'll find a link to my website as well as to other projects that I have going on here on YouTube. Thank you much for watching, and enjoy your cottage pie. Ooh, come to daddy.